The suspect then did raise a firearm toward law enforcement, and shots were fired by law enforcement officers on the scene. At that point, the suspect was deceased. He succumbed to his injuries at the scene.
Today in Cincinnati, a man reportedly dressed in body armor and carrying a long gun tried to breach the FBI field office. As you hear there, it did not end well for the suspect. After pursuing him to a cornfield, law enforcement were forced to open fire and kill him. The good news is that no law enforcement or bystanders were hurt. But news outlets reporting that the armed man, Ricky Schiffer, was an extremist and a supporter of Donald Trump. Various outlets reporting that Schiffer posted to Truth Social calling for violence in the days after the Mar-a-Lago search. And he appeared to post a message detailing his failed attempt to gain entry to that FBI building, saying, quote, "Well, I thought I had a way through bulletproof glass, and I didn't. If you don't hear from me, it's true. I tried attacking the FBI, and it'll mean either I was taken off the internet, the FBI got me, or they sent the regular cops." We also know that the magistrate judge in Florida who signed off on the Justice Department's warrant to search Mar-a-Lago is getting death threats on extremist web forums. Judge Bruce Reinhardt is a well-respected former prosecutor, defense attorney, but some in the far fringes of the media have launched an all-out attack on him, latching on to the fact that, among other things, he donated to Obama. Turns out he's donated to both Democrats and Republicans. Vice News reports extremists on a pro-Trump message board are now sharing the judge's address and those of his family members and making violent threats against him and his family, calling him a pedophile, anti-Semitic slurs, saying things like, "I see a rope around his neck." Another user then wrote, "Let's find out if he has children, where they go to school, where they live, everything." Now, let's hope these are just empty threats from anonymous internet trolls. But we have judges in this country who have been killed, whose children, whose loved ones have been killed by angry people with vendettas. That is a reality members of our judiciary live with every day. In a moment, we're going to be joined by a judge whose son was killed when a man with extremist views showed up at her family's doorstep. Now, I have joined with many conservatives criticizing left-wing protesters going to the homes of Supreme Court justices to protest Roe v. Wade being overturned and harassing the conservative justices out in public. It scares the heck out of me. And I've taken on the left who claim it's just about the right to protest. Protest at the court, not at their homes. And I completely agreed with many on Fox News who said this.
We either ought to apply the law or we ought to just simply say it's open season on judges, because that's what we're doing.
Well, I think you have a right to protest.
I think you have in front of their house.
I'm not saying that all of these peaceful protesters, that it's an automatic line to violence, but that's the worst case scenario.
True. Now compare that with some of the outrage mongering from the same network about Judge Reinhardt.
Here's a photo from the judge's Facebook. Look at that. He is there drinking whiskey with an entire pack of Oreos. Imagine what his aorta looks like. The FBI agents who raided Mar-a-Lago bragged about having, quote, full access to everything in the building, thanks to that guy.
We're now learning that the judge, Bruce Reinhardt, the woke Florida magistrate who happily signed off on the Mar-a-Lago raid, previously recused himself from a case involving President Trump. Keep in mind, this low-level judge also openly posted anti-Trump material on social media.
I mean, you can't even look into this judge because his bio has been scrubbed from the official government website.
Now, I wonder why his bio has been scrubbed. And look, I'm not suggesting that, Kilmeade or Hannity or any of these guys are putting this judge in danger per se. But it's tough to say that it's a danger to the justices for protesters to march and then to try and get the audience raging and frothing at a different judge. Here's why. A recent poll out of the University of California, Davis, suggests some 50 million Americans believe political violence is justified in some circumstances. It's 1 in 5 adults. And of those surveyed, 7% say they'd be willing to kill to advance a political goal. So to suggest your words, who millions take as gospel, these are very important people. People respect them. It can be dangerous. And I'm worried. Joining me now is Judge Esther Salas, whose son Daniel was killed by a gunman who came to the judge's home looking for her, angry over some perceived courtroom slight. Judge Salas, thank you for coming back on the show. Appreciate it. All right, so what do you think when you see some of the attacks against someone like Judge Reinhardt?
I'm worried too. I think we've gotten to a place that we all need to just take a step back, take a breath, and start thinking about the fact that words matter, facts matter. We need to start looking at the facts. In this case, magistrate judges do not get to pick the cases they sit on. They're on duty. They get the case. They look at the law. They look at the facts, and they do what they must do. Judges on a daily have to make tough calls. And Mr. Abrams, sometimes those calls are very unpopular. But that's the job that we took an oath. And when I hear people impugning his character, impugning other judges' characters, calling them, demonizing them in other cases, all we need to do is just take a look at from when Daniel was killed, my only child, on July 19, 2020, and today. And we can see a sequence of events that, depending on the story and the topic, people are worried about judicial security. And you know what that says to me? That we can all agree. Because guess what? Republicans are concerned about judicial security, and Democrats are concerned about judicial security. All Americans should be concerned about judicial security.
I agree with you. I worry, though, that sometimes Republicans are concerned about it in certain cases and Democrats get concerned about it in other cases. I'm with you. I'm concerned about it, period. I don't care if the judge is conservative or liberal or left or right or whatever the case may be. I am nervous about judges and, you know, media outrage machines wanting to gin up this anger. And again, criticism is fair game, right? I mean, that's part of the game.
Absolutely.
Right.
Listen, one of the reasons that we need the Daniel Anderl Judicial Security and Privacy Act is because, you know, quite frankly, people do get angry. And you know, sometimes we'd like to think that we have responsible journalism, that we have responsible leaders, and that we understand that these are tough calls no matter what. We don't need to be fanning these flames and making it even hotter in this country. We are ripping this country apart. And the justice system, the thing that has kept us together as a country, one country under God, indivisible, that what's kept us together is the justice system.
And you've been consistent in your position on this. I mean, I saw you on Fox News and other places, you know, talking about your concerns about the protests outside some of the Supreme Court justices' homes, et cetera. You know, I just wish there was the same kind of consistency that you have, that I try to have. I mean, this is, you know, this is very personal to you. I try to have this intellectual consistency. I try to be transparent with my viewers. But, you know, a lot of the hypocrisy that I see out there about this is dangerous. We need to be consistent on this, period. Final word?
We need to be consistent. We need to realize that lives are at stake. This is a matter of life or death. I'm here to tell you, my husband barely survived the attack. My only child lost his life. We have to, as a country, start stepping back. Our leaders need to lead, and they need to work together to make sure common sense bills like the Daniel Anderl bill gets passed.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.